Thank you for rejecting me. Ugh, rejection. When you hear that word, does it make your heart sink to the floor and make you just want to run in the opposite direction?
Well, if you have a pulse and breath in your lungs, there's a 100% chance that you have either gone through or will at some point in your life go through rejection or betrayal.
Whether it's rejection through betrayal, heartbreak, abandonment, not fitting in, body shame, or even feeling like God is silent within it all. Our guest today is here to equip you with stories full of healing and empowerment, just for you.
Yes, Kait Warman is an inspirational speaker, a relationship coach, and the host of Heart of Dating podcast, in which the purpose is to unmask the ever so ambiguous world of dating in the Christian world, because let's face it, hashtag the struggle is real.
In her new book, Thank You for Rejecting Me, Transform Pain into Purpose and Learn to Fight for Yourself, Kait vulnerably shares how she grew through her deepest, darkest rejections and offers readers the tools to heal from the past, take back their power, and walk in strength, victory, and love in their future.
So we welcome you lovely ladies and gentlemen to join us as we have a fun and heartfelt conversation with Kait Warman.
Savior, you're all I, Savior, you're all I, you are all I need, you are all I need, Savior, you're all I, Savior, you're all I, you are all I need, you are all I need.
Hello, our lovely and beautiful friends. Welcome to the Elena and Natalia show. We're twin hosts. I'm Natalia Maranian.
And I'm Elena Maranian. Well, today we have a fun and a faith-filled show with our new special guest. Her name is Kait Warman, and she is obsessed with all things Disneyland. She loves all things French, and she also loves Celine Dion. I think there's some things we have in common, right?
Absolutely. Disneyland?
Yeah.
Kait also believes at the core of each person that they are perfectly unique, loved, and worthy of God's best, but that we all need to remember to dance it out just a little bit more.
Yeah.
I agree. So let's welcome for the first time our lovely new guest, Kait Warman.
Oh, ladies, so happy to be here.
Oh, just excited.
I know.
Yeah.
We are so excited to welcome you. And when I first found out, we both first found out about your Heart of Dating podcast, I'm like, it's only a matter of time before we have you on.
The show.
And now you're here to talk about Thank You for Rejecting Me, your new best-selling book, I must add. So
Wow,
just, it's going to be a fun girl chat today.
I
But
love
guys
that.
are welcome.
I'm so pumped. Yes, but
Guys
the men
are welcome.
You can tune in too. You may learn a thing or two
That's our
about
girl chat.
what does really us ladies really think, right? Yeah.
Get a little peek into three ladies' minds.
Yeah.
And I love that you say in your podcast, let's get to the heart of the matter.
Yes.
And can I add, let's get to the heart of the matter, because your heart is all that matters. So we're talking all things about your heart. And thank you for being so vulnerable and open. We listened to your podcast and read your book. And it's just going to be, I believe, a transformational and inspirational time as you share your heart and stories. But before that, let's just start with the little icebreaker. First, your name. I love your name, Kait Warman. I don't know why. Whenever I started hearing your name, Warman, I kept on saying first the word warm.
Yes.
And I believe you're so warm.
Oh,
your
I love
disposition. And then, ironically, you being that you host a dating podcast, Warm Man. So I heard God say she's warring for her man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my
So
God.
warring.
Ladies, I receive it, okay?
And you're warring, doing such a good job.
2021, okay? This is it. This is the year.
Kait Warman is warring for her man. That's what you're
right.
doing.
I feel like that's what so many of the stories in this book are about. Too,
Exactly.
right? Yeah.
And you're doing
Warring
such
for
a great
myself.
job at it. And God's behind you all the way. Another icebreaker before we get going with the questions. Your name is Kait, obviously, in case you needed a reminder. But your full name's
I wasn't
Caitlin.
sure.
Caitlin, right? Yeah, Kait. So we've asked this to several guests before. Using the first, obviously, 4 letters of your name, what adjective would you use to describe yourself?
Just the first 4 letters?
Yeah, Kait. K-A-I-T. Using like K for...
Oh my God.
I know, it's a little on the spot,
K
but
is such a hard word or hard letter. K for, oh my God.
I'll help you if you need.
I know,
Or
like a
kind?
Kind, okay,
You're kind.
perfect. Okay, K for kind. I almost said kooky, but that would
Oh,
be,
that's cute.
You know,
Kind and kooky.
Kind and kooky.
Kait.
I would say intellectual. I think I love just learning and growing, and so
Yes.
hopefully I'm a little intellectual.
How about A?
Why did I skip the A?
Kate.
K-A. I'm not even spelling my name right, ladies. It's fine, okay? A, wow, I love this. Adventurous. I love this is my year too. I said to myself starting 2021, I'm like, being a single woman in my 30s, it's the year I'm still gonna adventure. I'm not gonna just wait to do all the things I wanna do with a man. I'm gonna do them now. Like getting a dog, which we're gonna talk about. Yes. So A for adventurous, I for, what did I say, intellectual. And T, let's think. What? Give me some.
Transparent.
Transparent.
Truthful.
Yes. Okay, I love that. Yeah.
So I mentioned a couple of fun facts in our intro. One of them, you love Paris. That is one thing we have in common. I've never been to Paris, but have you?
Yes, girl.
Okay.
Lived there in college. I can't wait to go back. And when you do go, you have to go in June. I think Paris in June is like, it's just magical.
So romantic.
The flowers look like these flowers here, and everything is white and cream, and just it's sunny. And I feel like that time of the year too, like it stays lighter for longer. So it's just purely magical. So you need to go in Paris. Paris in June.
Paris in June. That sounds so.
How about
romantic.
New York? I love New York.
Yes.
Seriously. And
I
you
love
were
New
a
York.
fashion buyer in New York, I
Yep,
hear. Yeah,
that's right. Actually, so many people don't even know that about me, which is funny. They're like,
had
you're
to
a dating
mention
coach. But I'm like, yes, but back in the day, I was a fashion buyer.
And you also love Celine Dion. What's your favorite song?
Okay, my favorite song is The Power of Love, hands down. But then my other favorite song, second favorite, is The Prayer. Have you heard that song?
Beautiful.
With Andrea Bocelli.
Yes.
Oh, I think it just always makes me almost like emotional. I always listen to it at Christmas, but it's just one of those in the car, windows down, turning it up, and just blasting it. I pretend I know the Italian, though I don't know, and I just sing the Italian. But it's a beautiful song.
That is beautiful. We love Because You Loved Me.
Yes.
I feel like that's like God's song to us.
I know. It's one thing when like you insert a crush or a guy when you think of those songs and it takes it to a whole new level. And I'm like thinking of God. I'm like, oh my gosh, it hits you to the core string.
It does.
Preach it, Celine Dion.
Okay, next time I listen to it, I'm thinking of
Because You
God.
Loved Me.
I literally started thinking of him. I'm like, wow, it hit me on another level that no man could ever do. So,
Well, so you mentioned your divine partner. You got a new little pet, Lovey.
that's one thing we have in common. And I think we both got handed literally from heaven our little puppies a week apart, I think it was.
Yeah, like literally the same week.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. Yeah, I said this on an Instagram post I did when I was talking about getting Lovey, but I'm like, I decided to not put my life on pause. Okay, pause. Because I always said to myself I was going to wait until I had my significant other. Because I was like, I want to share the duties, and I want it to be when I have a man and then a family.
Right.
And I do believe in my heart those things will happen, but I decided this year, you know, I put the puppy on my vision board, and I've been looking at it every day, and it honestly looks exactly like Lovey, which is so funny. They look like twins.
Wow.
And this was the year. And here's the thing. Last thing I'll say on that is that I find so many women, especially, you know, you get into your 30s and you have this desire to be a mother and to start mothering, and so many of my friends are married and having kids now, which I love for them. I love that. But it's like, I want to start mothering. And so I thought this could be the perfect way for me to start exercising that before I have children.
Such good training, right? Our little Boaz is literally keeping us on our toes.
Yeah.
I love that we have that in common, being mothers to our little baby pets. And who says that we can't celebrate getting dogs, and singles, and pets, and pet therapy, and all the love you need in the world. So.
I love it.
So you are a dating coach, and you also have a very successful Heart of Dating podcast. So how did that podcast come about?
So actually, the podcast, so being a dating coach, starting the podcast was never something I wanted to do. It was never in my heart to be a single woman talking about dating.
You were in fashion before all this.
I was in fashion. I remember back in my days in New York, though, I started throwing these rooftop soirees because I had...
Oh, how fun. Where were we?
Yeah, I know, right? Because I went to an amazing church, and then I had friends at other church communities, and we would, one night, or maybe it was brunch, we were on my rooftop and overlooking the skyline of Manhattan, and I was like, wait a second, all of us are single, we go to different churches, and there's plenty of guys at all of our churches, but I don't go to your church, so when would I meet those guys, you know? So I decided, what if I throw a rooftop soiree? And you just invite every guy you know at your church, all do the same, and we bring them all together. So that was well before I ever became a dating coach, but I started loving just bringing people together and seeing what relationships might form or connections may form. But Heart of Dating started in the wake of actually a heartbreak. And so in chapter 5 of the book, I write about a relationship that I thought was going to end in marriage. I really thought dating that man, like, this is it. You know that moment you're like, he loves God. we connect. My mentor was into it. My family loved him. Like, God, praise God, hallelujah. We're in. This is it, okay?
It's happening.
Until it wasn't it. And in the wake of that rejection and that heartbreak, it was really hard. But I look back now and I see that I needed that time in that heartbreak to heal, to press deeper into God. And without that healing season, I don't think I ever would have had the space to cultivate this passion for Heart of Dating. Because in that season is when I felt God start speaking to me that he wanted me to start a podcast. And then he was like, I want you to start it on dating. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Come again. That's not happening, you know? But I felt so strongly in my spirit, no, it was supposed to be a podcast on dating. And I felt God was like, Kait, if not you, who's who? Who's starting? Everyone is so afraid to talk about dating, even as Christians, publicly, you know? And I also felt God confirm, like, I have brought you through so much in your story and your healing. I will bring you through this too. So a lot of fear and nervousness to start the podcast, but I really started it with an open-handed mentality of like, all right, God, this is you put this on my heart, so whatever you want to do, I'm satisfied, you know? And he just had amazing plans for it. And I didn't know that it would be the biggest passion of my life, you know, but God knew, like, oh, this is your calling. And I just thought it was a fun side project. But it really is.
And that started in 2018, correct? So just a few years ago, and just to see how it's blossomed and brought so much fruit. And I truly believe that was because of your obedience and your humility. Honestly, you were willing to not run away from the pain, but to run towards it. And that's what gave God the ability. I mean, he has all the supernatural ability in the world, but he wanted you to partner with him and saying, okay, God, I'm willing to work on my healing. He literally used your passion project, as you said, to bring forth so much fruit. How has it been cathartic and healing to you to talk about the pain and the heartbreak, even interviewing other guests who've gone through what you've gone through?
I think that's probably the most fun for me because I'm doing it alongside of everyone else, you know? So I'm still in the journey of dating. I'm still healing. It's still learning. And I don't think we ever arrive at some point of perfection. So I thought for a long time, like, I'm not qualified, you know, why would I call myself a dating expert or anything like that? But I realized, you know, even therapists are getting their own therapy and we're still always learning and growing. So I can only do my best to be humble and to say, hey, I'm still learning about this. And so what I love is having a guest that I'm interviewing and talking about like actual things either I've experienced, people in my life have experienced, or people I'm coaching have experienced, and being able to just be walking alongside of it with them. And it's awesome. It definitely keeps you accountable. I will say that too, as you are dating, because I'm like having these conversations, I'm reading books all the time, and then I'm learning how to practice that in my own personal life too.
What was the most surprising thing you learned, you know, in this process about dating and talking with people? Yeah,
I think that one of the most surprising things I've learned overall is that God will always knows better. I mean, not that we didn't know that, right? Like we know that, but when it comes to dating, we're like, oh, I know what's best for me. I know what exactly is perfectly best for me. True. I have my specific type that is like the exact thing that I'm looking for. And I realized so often when you talk to married couples, you ask them, well, was that the person you thought you'd end up with? And most of the time they're like, no, not at all. I didn't think I would meet them that way. I didn't think that was the person I was going to end up with, you know? And so, but it just goes to show that God's way and design for dating is, and marriage and uniting two is so much more than we could ever comprehend in our mind. So to really surrender the process and just be open. And being able to do that allows you to enjoy it, I think, so much more. Yeah.
Interviewing all these guests you've had and including your own personal experiences, what is one common theme and denominator that you've seen bind all the guests regarding dating, perhaps love, rejection?
Yeah, I think that we are all hurting in some capacity, and we're all learning to heal along the way. I don't think there's ever a perfect moment where any person is perfectly ready and perfectly whole to then get out there and date, you know? I think that you can add more tools to your tool belt and you can be as prepared as possible and heal from things, but dating also brings things out of you. And so really taking that posture of, okay, I may learn some things here, but am I willing to be humble, to admit when I'm wrong or to admit that I need help? To be vulnerable with the person I'm dating, to express my feelings or my fears. And I think that's the hardest part about dating. When we have friends, like, it's not quite the same as when you're intimately revealing your heart to somebody in a romantic setting. And so we're all hurting and we're all healing in some capacity, and it takes a lot of bravery and courage.
Yes, for sure.
I love that. We're all hurting, but we're all healing in some capacity. And it's so beautiful that God would take your pain and birth it into your purpose, into your promise. And you're doing that so beautifully, being transparent, being honest, being vulnerable. And that's where healing really is found, in transparency and vulnerability, and also knowing that we are not alone. There may be a lot of single people, but not a lot of single alone people. We're not alone in this. And there's a lot of people who, are trying to navigate the dating world, especially in today's day and age.
Imperfectly perfect.
Imperfectly perfect. And I mean, dating was already hard pre-COVID. How did dating change the game during COVID?
Literally changed the game.
Yes. So the first thing is I actually had a boyfriend last year, and this was a part of my story where I wrote this book on rejection, then I went through a breakup, and I was like, God, really? Like,
That is interesting, humorous.
Sense of humor.
We'll put a pin in that for now, but I had a COVID relationship, which was very interesting to navigate because you become very close with that person. You're spending time with them, and there's not a whole lot to do, so you have to be very creative. How we're spending time together, and all of that. Going on walks outside or whatever it looks like, right? But now, since I'm single again, the last 6 months, I have started dating again. And so it's been interesting. I think a lot of it has become more digital. And so that's just the reality. There's some stats I'll just throw out there that 80% of people met online in 2020. And that also includes Christians. 80% of people, because there was no place to meet anyone.
Does online include Instagram?
Yes. So, that stat I think mainly includes apps, but I would say digital dating. Instagram being part of that is a huge way. That's actually the number one way I've met people. And just meeting through mutual friends on Instagram or through people who you see and you're like, oh, just start a friendship, start a conversation and see what may happen.
Talking about just starting a conversation and just going for it in this dating world, you talk about a term that I love, dropping the hanky, which tell us more, because to me it kind of translated, have you seen Legally Blonde?
Yes!
It kind of translated to the bend and snap.
Oh my gosh, that's hysterical.
How did they bend and snap?
They're coming out with Legally Blonde.
Right?
Is it 3?
I think there was a 2.
Yeah, I think it's the third one.
Yes, I'm excited.
Nothing beats the first one.
Anyways,
dropping the hanky, I mean, tell us more and how we can do that, what that looks like.
Let me get up here. Okay, I'm going to stand up and talk about
Go for it.
So dropping the hanky is really my term for that. Let's just put the church scenario out there. You go to church, and as a girl, you're sitting there, you see a cute guy, worship artist on the stage, or maybe just the cute guy who you've never seen before. Or the volunteer, the number one volunteer, and you see him across the room, and you are like, oh my gosh, this man, he looks like he loves God. He is so cute. And he just so happens to look your way.
Right.
And you're like, oh my gosh, he saw me. We made eye contact. He likes me. Oh my goodness. And so the next week you show up and you've dressed up and you're like scouring the crowd for him, right? And you are like looking for him, and he like kind of looks at you again. You're like, oh, he totally likes me. But meanwhile, you are never talking to him. You know his name. You start looking him up on Instagram. You ask people about him. You find out everything there is to know about this guy.
Yep.
And he doesn't even know who you are.
Oh.
And the reality is he may just have looked across the room. He may not have actually seen you. He may not have actually made eye contact. So I think we build these narratives like we're sitting there like, oh my gosh, maybe eventually he'll come up to me.
Or
Maybe
it was too
eventually
obvious,
like he'll say something, ask me out. And my thing is like, maybe he will, maybe he won't. Maybe he doesn't even know you exist. So I think you should drop the hanky. And what that means is first, just get in his proximity. Make sure he knows who you are and knows your name. You know, like, don't just expect him to like the perfect moment with the clouds part and he just comes across the room and he's like,
He's so prophetic, he knows your name.
I know. I'm like,
God said we're getting married.
It's not happening, okay? So get in his proximity and then start talking to him. Just make a conversation. And this can happen digitally too. But then the last thing is like, show him curiosity in some capacity. Like compliment him. Show him that you're interested in who he is. Just asking questions. And then if it comes to it, be like, hey, I find you to be really interesting. And I would love to talk to you more. What do you think about that?
Wow.
Literally just, that's it, ladies. We just drop the hanky. And then I'm not asking him to, I'm not planning the date, I'm not I'm just seeing what he does, you know?
I love that.
I've talked to so many men that are like, oh my gosh, what a breath of fresh air when a woman does that. Because guys are also afraid of rejection. We think that we're the only ones, but they put themselves out there.
Yeah.
It's hard to constantly do that and maybe get rejected. And so for them just to know a little inkling that they have an opportunity, they're like, oh my gosh, okay, great. So
ladies, drop the hanky.
Exactly.
And men don't need to drop the hanky. Right? I mean, I've always been the proponent of men should pursue, and there's nothing wrong. Girls who drop the hanky can still be pursued.
Yes,
so that's just the
absolutely.
initiation. Like we always say Ruth and Boaz.
Yes.
Like you say the story, Ruth technically was bold about it, but she was pursuing her purpose. And that's where Boaz found her in the field doing the work. It's not like she was out there looking. Even though I think this is a good opportunity to talk about dating myths and singles myths. How can we help our Christian brothers and sisters or well-meaning, intentioned family members or friends who are always asking, when are you getting married?
Right.
How do you respond to them?
Yeah, just say, hey, I know you love me and I know that you want the best for me. But can we celebrate the fact that I am living an awesome single life with purpose? I love that you care about that for me. I care about my marriage in the future
marriage,
too, hopefully, God willing.
Yes.
But like, it's hard for me when you keep bringing that up because I'm doing actually some amazing things in my life right now. So can we celebrate that? And honestly, when people like put that pressure on me, I'm like, I know you love me, but also that's not the only thing I want.
Exactly.
You know, it's part of what I want, but that's not the only purpose that God has given me here. And so I think that what people who are married or people who care about us, who are putting that pressure on us, I think my advice to them is just, celebrate what your single friends are doing, that they graduated school, that they started their side business, that they bought a home or bought a dog or that they did something unexpected. Like, let's celebrate those things, you know?
I found a new reply when someone asked, when are you getting married? I said, on my wedding date.
Whenever that is.
Perfect.
I just believe, if you have that desire in your heart, it's going to happen. God is faithful to fulfill the desires of your heart. It might not happen in the way we think. It might not happen on our timetable, but God is faithful that if He's given us a promise and His word says He will give you the desires of your heart and the desire of your heart is marriage, He will be faithful to fulfill it.
And honestly, all I can say, if it's not happening now, it's probably not the Kairos timing. There's Chronos time, chronological, our time frame, our thoughts, our 5-year plan, and then there's the Kairos timing, which is the divine convergence of when two souls are supposed to meet. And when that happens, no one can stop it. You could be up in the hills somewhere and locked up in your home. If you're meant to meet that man, it will happen. No doubt about it.
And that is what I say to so many people. And what my prayer has been, it kind of coincides with something I've been praying ever since chapter 5 of my book, that heartbreak and all of that.
Which is the ugly cry, right?
The ugly cry, I've prayed ever since then, like, God, I want the man who pursues me for his heart to be ignited for me. And in turn for my heart to be ignited for him. Because when that happens, they want to pursue you through the good, bad, and ugly. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what else is going on. And I've met great guys that just their heart has not been ignited,
Wow.
you know, to your
That's
point, you know, and I'm like,
ignited.
man, I don't
Wow,
want
I
to
love
convince
that.
them.
That's a
I don't
word.
want to force it. And you can just linger that relationship on, you know, but you want someone whose heart is ignited to pursue you.
And
I love
yeah,
that.
that's a beautiful prayer.
So how do you deal with that when someone's heart is not ignited towards you and you wished it could be ignited?
I think the first thing we have to do, and so often, and I'm so guilty of this,
Yeah.
is why I talk about it so much, is that we have to stop personalizing the rejections, and at least in the immediate throes of a heartbreak. You know, we go to the, well, what is wrong with me? What did I do? And like downward spiral of negative thoughts that only lead to, you know, self-deprecating things about ourselves, separating us from our true identity, and then also ultimately shame. It just makes us, leaves us in pits of shame, wondering, what is wrong with me? Why am I too much or not enough? And so I think what we have to do is stop personalizing the rejection
really
first
good.
and foremost. And there could be a million reasons why this person is saying no to you or breaking your heart right now. And in the immediate throes of rejection, the time is not then to ask, why? You know, I believe that we don't actually know all the answers for why. There's so
We
many
might not even
things.
want to know.
Yeah,
you know?
and I actually think it's God's kindness so often in the immediate throes of a heartbreak that we don't know the why. You know, I believe that trying to figure it out will lead to just so much despair. So instead, focus on what to do to move forward. And when we do that, through time, there's an opportunity, I believe, also to take radical ownership. But I just think that that comes after you start tending to your heart and after you start just running into the arms of the Father, running into God. In my last heartbreak last year, that's what I had to do. It made no sense to me. You know, I was like, this was a good relationship. And I wrote this book on rejection. I was like, this is it.
Right.
Yeah. Hello, round two.
Being rewarded.
And then it ended. And I was like, wow. But instead of going into
Did it blindside you?
It
Did you
totally
see it coming?
blindsided me. Oh yeah, ladies.
Wow.
I mean, it was 3 days before we were going on a trip to meet our families, and it was just a big step in our relationship. And yeah, ended. And I was like, okay. But I took myself actually on a solo trip, and I used that time. I got off of social media and just ran into God's arms. Honestly, had my journal and just spent every day lamenting, processing with God, and grieving. Yeah. And allowing myself to feel all the feels. And that's what you need to do. Don't keep asking yourself why. You will become so hyper fixated on the thing that right now in a heartbreak you need to move on from. And if it's going to happen one day, everyone's like, but what if what if I could do something?
Yeah.
If that's the case, God will bring you back together. Like you need to have faith enough in God, surrender the process that if you are meant to be together, your paths will cross. But you focusing and trying to suffocate it, it's only going to lead you to so much despair and depression and honestly self-hatred about yourself.
Grieving is so important to heal. What you don't reveal, God can't heal.
Yes,
he can, but
that's it.
he wants you to partner with him. Well, friends, don't you worry. We'll be continuing our fun girl chat conversation. You guys are welcome to with Kait Warman, the Heart of Dating podcast host, the new author of Thank You for Rejecting Me, and so much more. Our conversation is so packed with wisdom and love and faith and hope for what God has planned and is planning for you, even right now as we speak. So much good in store. So keep that hope alive in your heart and never get bitter, but always get better because Jesus is on your side and he's fighting for you today. So we love you all. And until next week, I will. You too. Preach it, sister. Hashtag preach it, sister.
Yeah.
Sister. Anyways, until next time, we love you all. Love and blessings. Bye.
You are all I need.